Well, I feel like I've just spoken for a long time, so I'm going to make sure that some of my time goes to my colleagues who have more detailed things to get, examples from Christchurch and from Chile. But let me just say a couple of things. As I got flustered, I had to be a little resilient when the slides weren't working. If I were going to make it, I said it's important to keep it simple. If I were going to boil down the whole piece of advice to two things, I would say, you know, when you're doing reconstruction, you have to think about making buildings safer, number one. We live in an urban world. Most of the people in the world now live in cities. We have to think differently about those cities. For the last 100 years, we developed building codes and standards with a different mindset. And now, going forward, I think we need to change that mindset and think more about functionality, reusability for buildings and infrastructure to keep it functioning. So that's number one. And number two is simply to plan. It is really much less expensive to talk than to build. So if we talk first, we can maybe solve some problems that don't need to be solved with some expensive piece of construction. There are lots of things that we can do in the social systems, in the social services, in government, in the others, the business systems, that can be done to make things safer, that don't have to cost a lot of public money. And let me give some examples. The companies in New Zealand, particularly in Christchurch, that were very successfully recovered after the earthquake were businesses that really paid attention to their staff. They gave their staff the time off they needed to take care of their houses and to take care of their families. They helped their staff to recover. They understood that if their staff's lives were falling apart, they weren't going to be very good employees. And they took the time within the businesses. So I think we need to think about how our business community can think about their own employees, how they can help with their own education, their own preparedness. It's one thing, as I showed the Apple headquarters down on one slide, and the Googles and all the other high-tech companies, they can make their laboratories and their businesses very secure. But if their employees aren't secure, they're not going to do very well. So that's one example. I think that we see that kind of planning in the institutions in California, in hospitals, in universities. These are in schools. These are the long-term owners of real estate. We're not going to, if we have an earthquake, it's not like University of California can ship sociology to Texas. You know, maybe some corporations can move some of their employees somewhere else, but we can't. So we have to think about how we strengthen our buildings, but also how we teach our students and faculty how to behave, how we teach our faculty how to plan. We've invested a lot in improving the buildings on the campus and in building new buildings, but we also make sure that every year, every dean has a plan for what courses they must teach in the event of some disruption when we won't have every single space available on campus. How do we make sure that our students graduate? How do we make sure that they stay in school? Can we use our alumni, who many live in the region, to provide extra housing for students who might be displaced? It's that kind of planning that we can do at an institutional level, at a community level. It's that kind of thinking that helps us to recover. And I think that we need to do those two things very straightforwardly, without such complexity, but we need to listen to each other. I think, as Diane said, there are going to be actors who will act for their own self-interest. We have to make sure that all the voices are heard and all the parts of the community are heard and everyone has a say. And with that, I think I will stop early so that others can talk a little more.